Well, hey y'all, welcome to a Saturday Showdown on Uncle Bub's Bell Buckle Beer Reviews. And I'm kind of pushed back away from the camera today so I can get my table in there so you can see these beers that we're gonna try head to head today. What I've got for you is a Foster's Lager at a 5% ABV against a Foster's Premium Ale at a 5.5% ABV. I believe is what this is. I think that's what it said, 5.5. Yeah, 5.5. Now, we got Foster's Lager, Foster's Premium Ale. And some of you may say, well, Uncle Bub, what's the difference between a lager and an ale? I'm so glad you asked that. And you know, it's something that's easily looked up on YouTube or Google it or whatever. It's pretty easy to find the answer to that. But basically, an ale is a top fermented brew that ferments at a higher temperature, normally around 60 to 70 degrees. 60 to 70 degrees. All right. A lager is a bottom fermented brew that is fermented at a cooler temperature, namely 40 to 50 degrees, something like that. Now there are exceptions to that can change flavor, and sometimes you can lager an ale and sometimes you can ale a lager, from my understanding, using different temperatures with the different kinds of yeast. Basically they use different kinds of yeast, top fermenting yeast, and it's got some kind of scientific name that I can't pronounce. And the same with the bottom fermenting yeast. They've got a typical yeast strain or whatever that ferments under either a warmer temperature or a cooler temperature. And sometimes you can mix those with different beers, and that anyway, whatever. An ale is a top fermented, warmer temperature. Lager, ale here. This is the ale. Ale. A lager at a cooler temperature and bottom fermented. All right. So we're going to try these two Fosters today, and we're going to do a blind taste challenge and see if I can tell which is which I don't know that I'll be able to, and see which one I like better, if I like either one of them better than the other. Now, an interesting thing about Foster's, while I was doing some research to do this head-to-head challenge, believe it or not, Foster's, everybody thinks Foster's founded in Australia. It's an Australian brew. All right, so believe it or not, though, it was actually the company was actually founded in Australia by a couple of Americans. From my research, they in 18 something. It says on here 1868, I think, or something like that. They went over to Australia. These two Americans went to Australia, and in Melbourne, they started the brewery of Foster's. I can't remember their names. I don't know if Foster's were their name or not. I can't remember. But anyway, I just thought that was interesting that a couple of Americans went to Australia and started the brew that is famous for Australia. I mean, you think of Foster's, you think of Australia. However, these are now brewed in the USA. Both of them are actually brewed in the USA now. Let's see if it says on here. I don't know if it says on here or not. Brewed and packaged under the supervision of Foster's Brands Ltd. by Oil Can Breweries in Fort Worth, Texas. All right, and these things they look like a dadgum oil can. It's 24 fluid ounces. No, it's 25.4 fluid ounces. So a little bit more than 24 fluid ounces. But these are big old cans. And it says the same thing. Brewed and packaged under the supervision of Foster's Brands by Ltd. Foster's Brands Limited by Oil Can Breweries in Fort Worth, Texas. Okay, so these are brewed in America. It says brewed in the USA with U.S. and imported ingredients. And it says that on both cans. So we've got Australian brews that are brewed in America, brewed with USA and imported stuff. It doesn't say where it was imported from, but I'm assuming Australia, but you don't never know. Anyway, I have reviewed these individually a long time ago, and I was in the grocery store the other day, and usually I'll see one or the other. I hardly ever find them both. But I was like, I saw them both in a grocery store the other day, and I was like, man, it's been a while since I've had them. Let's do a taste challenge with the pair of Fosters and see what we come up with. So let's do that today. Now, we're gonna start with the lager, and this is a lot of beer, y'all. This it's almost 51 ounces of total beer here that I'm gonna have to consume before I do my next video. This may be the only video I do today. Alright, I've got a blue piece of tape on the bottom of my lager can, which is a blue can, so I thought that would be appropriate. So I'm going to pour it off with a head, and we may have to, let it rest a minute for the head to go down, but I just wanted to see if there's a difference in the heads of these things. And got a nice head on it with a beautiful gold brew. You can see that. And try to hold it up against the, you can see the color of it. And since I'm far away from the camera today, I can't reach to get a good view of it for the camera. Now, that's interesting. The ale is actually a lot darker, even the head. They smell the same, but the head is a darker color, as well as the brew. I don't know if y'all can, we'll try to hold it up against the wall, and on the camera they look the same. But looking at them here, the ale is actually a couple of tints darker. I mean, it's quite a bit darker than the lager. Lager is bright and beautiful, and just a light straw gold, where the ale, the premium ale, it's bright and beautiful, but it's more of a copperish color, actually. I wish y'all could, I can't tell on the dadgum camera, y'all, but there's a clear color difference between the lager and the ale. And they're both beautiful, and the head's hanging out like crazy. And there is a lot of beer in this can. So, we're just going to kind of top these off till we get. Now, the foam on the lager looks a lot finer than the foam on the ale, to me. These are just little fine bubbles, and these have got some bigger bubbles coming out in them on the top there. But that head is just hanging out like nobody's business. And it's not going nowhere, it's just hanging out there. So we'll just be patient and let that foam die down some before I'll speed up through this part. Alright, so as you can see, the foam in the lager has actually dwindled down. It's left some lace in there, but the foam is just almost gone right here. It's got maybe a 1/4 inch of foam on it now, where the ale, the premium ale, is still, I mean, it's kind of divvied out in the bottom, but I mean it's clinging to the top of the glass, and the foam is still there throughout it. Now it's opening up some in the middle, but the lager dissipated a lot quicker than the ale. And the bubbles around the side of the glass are a lot more coarse, look like. So it's starting to dwindle down there a little bit. I think I've got about the same amount of brew in there in both mugs, and there's still a lot left in both of these cans, because these are 16-ounce mugs. They'll hold 16 ounces, and I'm gonna fill this one up to about right there. Let's do the same with this one. Alright, I gotta pour a little bit more in the lager, the ale. That's about the same. Alright. Foster's Premium Ale at a 5.5% ABV, and Foster's Lager at a 5% ABV. Lager being bottom fermented, ferments at a cooler temperature. Ale being top fermented, ferments at a higher temperature. Namely usually 60 to 70 degrees is what I said, and 30 to 40 degrees, 30 to 40, dadgummit, 40 to 50 degrees for the lager. Alright, so now I'm going to take my hat and my glasses off. We're going to swap these around, and then I'm going to see which one I like best and see if I can tell the difference. I don't know that I can. Alright, so here we go. I'm going to close my eyes as I do it now. So, time for the fiddle man. Fiddle man, go! Alright, we're going to stop right there. I've swapped them around and moved my head in different directions while I was swapping them, so I'm confused. I don't know which one is which. The lager has a piece of blue tape on the bottom of the mug, and I've swapped them around. I don't know which one of these is which, so swap them around one more time. Alright, so these Foster's Ale and Lagers are for all American workers. Hey, I love and appreciate y'all. Thank you for the hard work that you do to provide for yourselves and your families, pay your own damn way, just like I do. Cheers, brothers and sisters. I love y'all. Oh man, that's good. That's good. It's nice and smooth. I have no idea which one it was, but man, it's good. Let's try this one. Both of them are delicious. As far as telling the difference between the flavor of the ale and the lager, I don't know that I could do that. I am going to guess, however, because the foam on the ale was lingering, I believe I had a little foam on the top of this one. I think I felt it with my lip when I took a sip of it. I'm going to say that this is probably the ale. This one right here. I don't know that for sure, but I'm thinking that this is the ale and that this is the lager. Alright, so let's go back in for a second taste. I tried to breathe it. You can't breathe beer. Got to breathe air, can't breathe beer. Alright. Man, both of them are freaking delicious. Alright, so another interesting fact about lager. Lager it comes from the German word, I think it's lagern, Lagern. That's where lager comes from, and basically that word in German means to store. And the way it's said is that the lager, the way the lager is brewed, way back when they used to brew it and ferment it in caves because it's cooler. They would do it. They would ferment it in caves during the winter so that it would be ready during the springtime. So basically, you store it in caves to let it ferment. That's a brief history of the word lager and kind of where it came from. I'm guessing that this is the lager, and the lager had the blue piece of tape on the bottom. I'm guessing that this is it, but I don't know that. This one seems to be a little more smooth. Than the ale. I think this is the ale. This seems to have just a little bit more touch of bitterness in the finish. I'm thinking that this is the ale. All right, so let's go back in for one more taste. Alright, so I'm guessing that this is the ale and this is the lager. This one, the ale has a little more rich, just a little bit more richness to it and a little bit more bitterness in the finish. And the lager is just smooth as silk. It's just smooth and easy to drink. Not a whole lot of bitterness at all. Both of these are great beers. I'm going to score them an even A across the board. They're just both delicious and easy to drink. So, which one do I prefer? Do I prefer the ale or the lager? The ale or the lager? According to my guess, I'm guessing this is the ale. Which one do I prefer? Let's go back in one more time. Let's see. Man, that's just smooth and easy and delicious. This one is too. I'm going to say I prefer this one just a little bit over this one. Now I'm going to open my eyes. I made my decisions. I kind of made my guesses. So I'm going to open my eyes, put my glasses on. Let's see what we'll come up with here. Off the ground there. Let's see what we got here. Yep, I was right. This is the lager. I was thinking, and I just think that the foam out of the ale kind of gave that away just a little bit, I believe. But I think I prefer the flavor of the lager just a little bit better. It's just a little bit. The ale had a little more richness to it and a little bit more bitterness. But as far as drinkability, I believe the lager, to me, was better. Just a little bit. Oh, both of them were delicious. That off in there. And the ale just foams a lot more for whatever reason. I Another thing about the lagers, because it's fermented at a lower temperature, it takes longer for the fermentation to complete. So the brewing process, fermentation process, a lager takes a longer time to be ready than an ale, just so you know. But both of them are just beautiful brews. Both of them are freaking delicious. Score them both an A, but I think I just prefer the lager just a little bit more than the ale in this one. All right, y'all. That's been a Saturday showdown today on Uncle Bub's Bell Buckle Beer Reviews. And I'm glad we did this. This was interesting. I had never tasted these beers side by side. I've had them each individually at one time or another and liked them then, but I prefer the lager just a little bit more. All right, y'all. I'll be back next week for a Wet Your Whistle Wednesday, so y'all stay tuned. Take care. I love and appreciate y'all. Cheers.